Hello, check, check, check. Hello, hi. I don't know, I hadn't heard from him. You got it, we're good.
You can disregard them if you'd like.
Thank you.
Just sharing some of my research.
When you're out and about tomorrow, call me. I got something you might want to look at.
Okay. Somebody's getting out of their car. We're waiting on Stacy with agendas. Bear with us a moment, please. Here she comes.
I have noticed during this COVID period that less emails go back and forth.
Really?
I put them on the front counter for you. I told the girls to tell you as you come through. I'm sorry, I thought I was helping.
That's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think you'd see
think more.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just filtering out more of the spam. I don't know.
I didn't get the packet. All I had was
We get a
the
ton
very
of
front
spam.
part of right now of the meeting.
But see, stuff I need to read, court notices and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I leave
my
them
junk
on the front
email. I have to look at them every day to make sure.
Our meeting to order. We are a little late. We are at 4:49. Christie, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Mr. R will be doing our invocation, our pledge. Thank you, Mr. R.
Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to govern. I ask that you be with this body, help with the decisions that will be made. May they be the good and the right decisions for the city. Lord, I ask that you would keep our employees safe and that you would help our city to grow. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. R. Roll call, please.
Debbie.
Present.
Hart.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Hill. Eric. Kirby.
Here.
Agenda items will be acted upon if they meet the guidelines necessary to perform essential minimum functions of the governmental body or a matter of necessity to respond to COVID-19. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ard and a second by Mrs. Hill. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Motion 5-0 to proceed on. Just before we start, I'd like to say, just for me personally, and I would think the majority of the council would echo this, the instance that happened Saturday in LA with police officers, I'd just like to take this moment to say thank you to our police officers in the city of Decatur. I've seen fair and just police officers here, and I thank them for their service. And unfortunately, what they have to face every day is uncertainty. And so I want to say thank you to each and every one of them, and I pray for them every day. So.
Amen.
Ordinance number 204413, set public hearing to be held on 10/9/1920 at 10 a.m. on rezoning 135420. Request a tract of land approximately 40.9 acres and is located north of Donahue Street Southwest and west of 14th Avenue Southwest.
And that's just the one that got tabled several times. We're going to match it up with October 19th.
Okay,
10 a.m.
so we don't need to vote on that.
It's already, as long as you put it in the record.
Okay, and the public hearing was on 10/19/20. Ordinance number 204426, set public hearing to be held on 10/19/20 at 10 a.m. on rezoning 136520, rezoning a tract of land containing approximately 32.1 acres located east of Canterbury Avenue Southwest, R4 multifamily residential district to R3 single-family residential district. Well, that is a set a public hearing. Mr. Jackson, since it's your district, do you have anything to say about
I
that?
don't. Thank
Okay.
you.
And then ordinance number 204427, approve rate adjustment for garbage, first reading. I think they would like for us to, John, would you like for us to have an immediate consent if possible?
Yes, let me give you some background.
Please.
DU has agreed to implement the original increase that they proposed over 2 years. So the rates that are being proposed for residential are up 21 cents per month. Commercial is up 33 cents per month, and an extra cart is 15 cents per month. That is the CPI increase and the increase above. If we were able to get immediate consideration and pass the ordinance, that would expedite the whole budget process and we can get on to approving
Make a
the
motion
budget.
for immediate consent.
I have a motion by Mr. Ard for immediate consent and a second by Mrs. Hill. Roll call, please.
Libby.
Aye.
Ard.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Okay, we have a vote of 5-0 for immediate consent. Do I have a motion? Anyone want to let's have a motion first on the
Motion to approve.
motion by Mr. Ard and a second by Mrs. Hill. Any discussion?
John, you mentioned, and forgive me, I sat with DU and talked about this. You mentioned over 2 years, so are we looking at this same amount happening again next year?
Yes, sir. Any change with the numbers, if we get more residences, more businesses, or whatever, that denominator increases in the rate payment, but it's going to be pretty close to the same increase.
In talking with the DU folks, this has been in place for a lot of years, being done the way it is. And I do agree with the statement that they made that if we were doing our own billing, it would cost us more money. And if we went to a professional billing service, it would probably cost more money from everything I know about this. I don't like it per se, but I don't think we can blame them for the scenario that's been inherited.
Right. Cost of doing business.
Any other discussion? I would like to, though, for the public, make note in this ordinance, if you look at Section 2, I think this is noteworthy, and I, until taking office, lived here all my life, didn't realize this provision is there, and I'd like to make it public again. The above provision notwithstanding, any occupant who can show documentation to the city that the occupant's household has as its sole source of income only Social Security benefits shall be exempt from payment of the monthly services fee for the dwelling unit. So, for our residents that their sole source of income is Social Security, you can actually go down to Decatur Utilities, fill out a form, and you can defer payment for your utilities for the year. You have to do that every year. I think that is a benefit for some who may have to look at heating and cooling their home versus buying their medication. So I think this provision we really need to put out there that people know about.
Please explain to me something you just said. You said defer. In other words, they're still going to have to pay it. They can merely pay it late.
No, it
No, they have to
completely
do it
takes away.
annually.
Council President,
Yes, ma'am.
we need to ask somebody to mute their phone because there's a lot of background noise and I can't hear. I'm having a hard time hearing
Okay.
conversation.
Everyone on the phone conversation, if you could please mute your phone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Christy, let me know if that works or not.
So your explanation was that if they're on Social Security, they do not have to pay the increase until such time as
They don't
any
have to
future
pay.
action is taken?
They don't have to pay any of their monthly utility bill or garbage
No,
bill.
it's just the garbage.
Just the garbage part? Okay.
Yes.
But I think the same thing applies for utilities as well. All you do is take your documentation to Decatur Utilities that your sole source of income is Social Security, and they defer all of those payments, so.
But it has to be done annually.
Yes, every year you must do that.
So it's only the increase that will apply? Not the whole bill, just the increase?
No, it's the entire
The
bill.
garbage rate.
Okay.
The entire-
We cover the garbage rate annually, that's what you do, you file it annually.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear what we were saying. Thank you.
I just think a lot of our folks don't know that exists, and I think that could be helpful to some. All right, any other discussion? Had a motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mrs. Hill. No more discussion, roll call, please.
Bibby,
Aye.
Ard,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Kirby.
Aye.
Ordinance number 2044-27 is approved 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Christie, is that better?
Yes, I mean, I could hear you, but there was just some muffling, probably from someone on the phone call, so I had a hard time hearing everything you were saying about the Social Security.
Okay. Let me know during as we start the next Great. Okay, we'll start our work session. Here we go. The quote for this evening is, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." That's from Mother Teresa. So, John Joseph, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, we're going to give you first stab here at the, I believe we all have these. Christy, I'm not sure if you have them. You may have yours online if you have these, gentlemen. That's what John will be speaking about. All right, John, go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you all for the chance to present. Also want to thank Mr. Ray and Ms. Gilly for their help as well. You know, like many of you can understand, our family loves it here. We love the pace of life. We love the sense of community. We love taking our kids to the depot on Saturday morning. The status quo is really good for our family. Going to the next slide. But you have laid a foundation for growth here, and we're starting to see those results. You know, we're seeing hundreds of residential lots being announced. We're seeing outside investment. Those are things that have happened on your watch. Those are the kind of things that a foundation for growth can produce. And in listening to you and speaking with many of you, I know a lot of that has been driven by the fact that you've been to cities that don't grow and haven't, and you know what's at stake. And that's why we have a foundation for growth in the first place. So going to the third slide, that brings us to the crossroads. It brings us to the same choice that every city has. Do we invest in today only or also tomorrow? The choice is status quo or grow. Same choice that every city has every time. Moving to slide 4, the best and brightest is about growth. It's about laying a foundation for a great life for the people who are here. And it's told the stories of these people. And they're working 60 hours a week. They're starting their lives here. We want to get them out more. But I can tell you, day to day, you know, when one of them plugs into a local business that was missing a key person and is now thriving, when Pam Zert helps people foster pets who may not be able to adopt, or Aaron Newsom comes here and becomes a science teacher at Decatur City Schools, it makes a huge difference. And as far as their commitment to the city, you know, we're currently investing in 17 class members, yielding a total of 33 residents. 13 of those 17 have already bought or built a home in the city of Decatur. Moving to slide 5, we've been very fortunate to have local individuals, local businesses, and now the state of Alabama invest in this program. I hear from supporters of this program all the time. It might be Jim and June Odom, who mentor one of our class members and cook dinner with him at their house. It might be one of our contributors. It might be someone who has spoken to the group. And they're all watching because they all know that this program can only reach its full potential in partnership with the city because it is a public program. Going to slide 6, a smart local investment. But this is not all about our hopes and our dreams. This program makes rock-solid business sense for our city. Again, I've spoken with so many of you and heard you talk about how important it is to grow our disposable income, how important it is for our city to benefit directly from the investments you make. And that's what this program delivers in spades. You know, I'd ask you to ask yourself this question. If every employee of a company that you recruited here lived in the city of Decatur, would you be more likely to recruit that company? Because that's what this program delivers. You don't participate in this program unless you live in the city limits of Decatur, Alabama. But instead of just investing in companies, we're investing in people. Going to the next slide. But there is a question, is this the kind of a program that benefits the few at the expense of the many? And it's not. It's a program that benefits all of our residents. A skilled workforce makes it easier to keep the great jobs we have here. Increased property values happen when there's more people to bid on our houses, and that's exactly what we've seen. There's more disposable income to support small businesses, but not just our entrepreneurs, also those people in need. Because the fact is, we need people with resources to support people who are struggling. We have to have both. They help keep other young professionals here. It returns revenues directly to the city. The program pays for itself. It's already returned at least $280,000 in revenue directly to the city in the form of taxes they pay, license and tag fees, so on and so forth. Moving to the impacting Decatur slide, but this is not paying people to live here. This is investing in people to contribute here, and that's exactly what they've done. They're already impacting the city when they buy houses as Best and Brightest class members, when they date, when they tell their friends and family about Decatur, when they join boards. There's a picture here you'll see on your slide. It's Megan Pitts with Kim Mitchell from the Carnegie. Megan is an engineer who moved to Decatur, jumped right in, joined the Carnegie board. Megan works at ULA, and in this picture you see her delivering a check from ULA to Kim and the Carnegie, supporting our local organizations, because that's what happens when people live in Decatur and call it home. They care about what happens here because they're not leaving at 5 o'clock. This is where their life is. And those are the kind of results we've seen. Moving to slide 9, Decatur leading the way. You know, we didn't start this program for recognition. This is for home. This is about showing people the kind of place Decatur is, the kind of place we all know it can be. But others do see the value in this program. Others are copying this program. Others are asking what is happening in Decatur, Alabama that we can learn from. So again, this program isn't started for other people. It started for our home. But there are other people, other voices speaking to its impact and its potential. Just wrapping up now, last slide. I know all of you, all people who run for elected office fight for our city, but I know you in particular have worked to lay that foundation for growth. Those things that I mentioned earlier have happened on your watch, and those are real, and those are positioning us to thrive in the years ahead. But again, we come back to the same choice that every city faces. Do we only invest in today or also tomorrow? It's status quo or grow. I hope you'll support this program. I really appreciate the chance to present to you today. And thank you all for your service, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, John. I've got a few questions, but I'll let any other council members that have questions go if anyone has any.
I had a couple of questions. Can you hear me, John?
Yes, sir.
How many years has the program existed at this point?
This is the 5th year.
Okay. And do you know the number of households that are currently in Decatur based on the program?
All 17. So we have 17 members we have invested in. They have brought people with them for a total of 33 residents. Of the 17 members, 13 have either bought or built a house in the city, and this has all been with just private seed funding to date. The program received funding from the state, which will apply to this year's class.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Christy, do you have any questions for John?
I do not have any questions.
Okay, John, my first one is the state is going to invest this year in the Best and Brightest. How much is the state going to invest?
$120,000. That will be limited strictly to student loan repayment. The program, of course, has multiple benefits, but it will be limited to student loan repayment for students with a STEM degree from a 4-year accredited higher ed institution in Alabama.
Let's see. What is the typical debt of someone who comes to participate in the Best and Brightest? I would say their 4-year degree is probably more than what this is giving back. Yes? So is this a percentage?
Usually, yes.
What percentage of the Best and Brightest reimbursement would be toward their education? Typically.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry?
Typically, what, I mean, I know you probably can't give me exact, but typically.
Yeah, so, I would say the majority of our class members do have a student loan balance that exceeds the 15 that we can help repay. But because of the lower cost of living here, they also find that they're able to make more headway in paying down their loans. There are other people who come and they may have a $12,000, $13,000, for example, student loan, and at that point the payment, just stops when their student loan is repaid, if that happens.
And this payment goes directly to the school, not to the student? Or the participant, I'm sorry.
In the past, we have sent the check directly to the students and then asked for just proof that it applied to the student loan. Going forward, we're going to send the funding directly to institutions, whether that's a student loan provider, or similar.
What's the biggest complaint of any of the participants that you hear repeatedly?
They want more to do at night with their friends, and I think they understand, though, that part of that is building up our young professional group so that there's demand for a lot of the things that they want to do. If you've got a Redstone Arsenal, you're going to have enough people to get a Topgolf, and that's no problem, but I think a lot of them would rather stay here and do things that they like to do than travel elsewhere. That's by far the biggest one.
Okay. Last question I have. What is your total number of participants that stayed in and actually completed the process?
Well, we started the program with the class of 16. And in the class of 16, we admitted 9 people. That actual number was 9, but they brought folks with them. And so we still have 6 of those remaining. Of the 3 who had to leave, 1 left because her mother's caretaker unfortunately passed away, and she needed to be closer to her mom to take care of her near Wetumpka. We had 2 who both got jobs close to each other in another city, and then we had 1 who got married and his wife went to grad school in Birmingham. 2 of those 3 told us they would have stayed, but for those factors. Overall, our retention rate has been over 80%. That's a really high number. I would have taken 50, but we're going to still keep striving for the highest we can get. The key is continue to bring people here. As more people come here, more people will want to come because that's where their friends are.
Thank you, John. You answered my questions. Anyone else?
Yeah, John, could you elaborate a little bit about the methodology that was used to calculate the savings?
And did you hear that? That was Chuck.
Sure.
Okay, just making sure you could hear. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm on speaker too. So we contracted first with Randy Gross, who worked on One Decatur, to do our projections for the amount of revenue that each participant provides to the city. That number did not include the indirect impacts. For example, when people come here and they spend money at restaurants, that helps create other jobs. That wasn't accounted for. There were other factors that he didn't have the data, and we still had a number north of 5,000. But in making our projections, we discounted the findings by 20% just so everybody could agree we were being conservative and not overly aggressive. I will say that we also worked with the Small Business Development Center to do the same thing. They approached the methodology from a different perspective. They accounted for the direct impacts and the indirect impact that happens when you have a skilled young professional with discretionary income moving to your city. And the 2 estimates were completely independent of each other, ended up being within $200 of one another. So I felt good about the reliability, plus, Randy obviously has a lot of credibility with our city.
Thank you, John.
For clarity purposes, the name he's referring to, Randy Gross, I believe, is the economist that works for Planning Next.
Thank you, that's correct.
Thank you, John. Anything else from council? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All righty. Next, proclaim September 21st as NICU Awareness Day. Approval of minutes for regular meeting on July 6th, special called meeting on July 8th, special called meeting July 10th, special called meeting July 13th, August 10th, 1:30 PM special called work session, August 11th, 1:30 special called work session minutes. Any questions with any of those, council? Christie?
No, ma'am.
All right. Resolution 2264, approve request for retail off-premise beer and wine license for help me out, Sal.
Sri Ganesh.
There you go. LLC doing business as Fuel Zone at 101 6th Avenue Southeast. Sal?
Yes, ma'am, this is a request for an alcohol transfer, and it's recommended for approval.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Sal. Resolution 2265, approve request for off-premise beer and wine license for Ard Seafood LLC, doing business as Ard Seafood Market, located at 1216 Buttline Road, Decatur, Alabama, 35601. Sal.
Yes, ma'am, this is a request for a new alcohol license at an already existing business, and it's also recommended for approval.
Did you do a good background check in this guy?
I don't know about this guy.
Any questions? Thank you, Sal.
Sorry, Chuck.
Resolutions 2266, approve MUB expenditure, $459,310 for FY 2021 boring and trenching contract. Right from DU.
Miss Vivi, this is Gary Gordon. Can you hear me?
Hey, Gary, yes, sir, I can. Go ahead.
Yes, great. This is a boring and trenching contract we normally do each and every year. This represents gas, water, and electric work we do in the city. We will use this boring and trenching contract for, say, areas in the city that have underground electricity. We need to put in a conduit. We'll use it for that. Boring under streets and roadways to install gas lines or water lines if we're doing projects throughout the city. We've been using Armor Contracting for this work for several years, and we bid it out last year in 2019, and they've been doing work the past year. In that contract, it will allow us to extend that contract up to 2 years as long as they are performing up to standards, which they are, and the prices remain firm. And they are remaining firm for another year. So we would request the City Council to approve this, $459,310. This is in our operating budget, and it's been approved by the board here at the Municipal Utilities. So with that, I'll ask if you have any questions.
Any questions from council?
No questions.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
Resolution 2267, reappointment of Billy E. Cook Jr. as municipal court judge. Turn page. Requested by Herman. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Ms. Bibby, I'll be closing in quickly on my 24th year of service. Been a pleasure to serve. Been a pleasure to serve under this council. Be glad to answer any other questions you may have, particularly if you have questions about how we're operating court during the current pandemic, if you have any questions about that.
I don't remember, you came at the end of 96 or the beginning of 97?
End of 96.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to say to Judge Cook, I appreciate your service and leadership, and thank you. I've enjoyed, learning more about the municipal court, and I welcome an update with regard to where we are in this current season.
Yes, ma'am. Be glad
with regard to our court system.
Yes, Ms. Hill, thank you. I appreciate you serving as our liaison. Ms. Hill and council, we are working at the speed of safe. We are working as quickly as we can, but we're trying to be as safe as possible. The courtroom has been set up to accommodate two in one row, we skip a row and go into the next row. That has reduced significantly the number of people we can get into the courtroom at any one time. But what we do is we break it down now in many multiple sessions, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then very often we're even back at 1:30, 2:30, and like today we were at 3:30. So we're working at the speed of safe. We've spread everything out as much as we can. We've created shields where we can. We started with backing up with traffic tickets first. That was the thing that we needed to work on early. Then we started working on other cases that we could catch up quickly. We've begun bringing the attorneys back into the courtroom now. That takes up a little more time. That brings more parties into the courtroom. So it was time to do that. We cannot work at the speed we were working, but we push everywhere we can to try to do as much as we can to keep the court system's got to be open. It just, I mean, you just can't just shut a court system down. So, Ms. Hill, other questions you may have, or other council members?
No, but I appreciate the update.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Hill.
I'll say a couple things, Judge. I'm going to echo what Christy said, and she and I have sat actually in your court for
Yes,
a
ma'am.
day and
Yes,
seen.
ma'am.
I want to thank you for what you do, the time you
Thank
take, which was so telling to me. You get personally involved trying to help folks through a bad situation if you can. And you've shared with us stories where you've tried to help those and certain unfortunate things happen. And I can see that gets to you, it tugs at your heart. And
Yes,
that,
ma'am, it
that,
does.
That makes me know we've got the right judge there.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, but you couldn't do it without your staff. And I tell you what, your staff, when I've been up there, is amazing. And so I want to say a shout out to them. Now, I did have a question for Rochelle. If in here it says that the salary, continuing at salary range 25, I think we made a provision a couple years ago that we went up to 27. Today I did confer with her, and it's on our legal counsel. I would consider you legal counsel. I know what a great job you do. I would like to see your salary range go up. I don't know if this council has time to do that, but the next council, if they would take time to see what you did, you deserve every cent you get, sir. And I appreciate your efforts every day. I thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
I'll
that.
second that.
Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? Thank you.
Resolution 2268, appoint Tracy Thornton as fire chief effective 9/21/20. Rochelle?
Yes, ma'am. DC Chief Thornton has accepted the offer to join the city as the fire chief, and in the pay grade 26 at step 5, with an effective date of September 21st, which is the beginning of the next pay period.
Questions from council?
That's great news.
Rochelle, I will share the question I have with council, because if you read the resolution, it does say that we will pay for the moving residency. He does not live in the city of Decatur. And I did ask, there's no not to exceed limit. And Rochelle, can you go into that a little more for us?
Yes, the city policy that was approved a couple of years ago, it allows reimbursement of moving expenses up to $8,000. There's a provision to exceed that if there is a long distance move involved, but this would not be long distance, so it would be up to $8,000.
Okay, very good. And then just want to make sure that the 12-month, he understands within 12 months he has to be a resident of the city, and I think you've confirmed that.
Yes, what we discussed was as soon as possible, preferably within 6 months and no later than 12 months.
Thank you, Rochelle. Any questions?
No.
Resolution 2269, approve the construction of the new fire station located at 2704 Danville Road Southwest, not to exceed $3.25 million. John?
This is basically a resolution to kind of bring together all the little pieces that we had. We had the architect fee at $250,000. We started with some of the engineering costs at around $17,000 or $18,000, and then we got construction, which has not been addressed yet. And so this resolution addresses the construction component and brings all the pieces together under one resolution.
John, we haven't gotten the estimate from the engineering, right? This is reserving a spot? What's it?
Yes, sir. The estimate that we had originally talked about when we were really talking about building it was 3 million.
Yeah. Why not leave this, why do we need to do this?
It's just, we're taking it out of unassigned balance, we're attaching it to the project.
But why not do it after we know what it's going to be?
You can, this is the estimate that was given before, and that was the earmark, you know, when we were
But it's
looking at
just
the
an
funds.
earmark, and I
No,
think
but
we're-
on the funds, when we were looking at it,
Yeah.
I mean, we can
know.
wait, we can assign it, one or the other.
I just wanted to hear the advantages and disadvantages of doing this before we know an estimate.
I would prefer to assign it.
I would as well.
Does anybody else? John, just clarify for me if you would. You gave us a couple of amounts there. One was an engineering fee, the other was an architectural fee.
Remember, they were doing some basic engineering work on the site.
Was that the 18,000?
That was like 17 or 18,000.
And
We
250
had
was-
contracted with the architect for 200, not to exceed 250.
Okay.
So
Just
this
one-
just brings it all together under one.
Thanks, John.
And John, I will say this, I did speak with Chief Thornton on, and Carl Pruitt brought this to my remembrance. Excuse me, where it is located, excuse me, it will need a red light to get out. And they're gonna, I'm sorry, I have a little tickle. They're gonna try and reuse the light now at Station 5. I tell you what, let me come back to that. So,
Yeah,
Mr.
so-
R, will you take the next one, please, while I get a drink?
So the other thing is that when you're working with an architect and you don't put in a target for the people that are working, you can have creep. And if we establish a number, it'll help them to target when they're looking at gold-plated items, you know,
But don't
versus-
we also set a target where people are going to be bidding? If they know we're going to spend $3 million, then what would be their
Well, I think,
incentive
I'm
to-
not sure that, like, you talk about furnishings and everything, you're talking about a kitchen, you're talking about ventilation systems and everything else, a lot of different components, I'm not sure that it gets too far out of hand.
All right, just seems like we're pushing it.
Sorry, the light, I've got it now. The light replacement will also be in that amount. Anything else, Ms. Hill?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Paige, did you say that that amount includes the light relocation?
it should, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Resolution 2270, award bid number 20023 for Pashi Shell applicator for the landfill. I'm sorry, Wanda, help me with that so I don't butcher it. Wanda?
Ozzy Shell.
Oh, okay, well then you can do that. Help me not butcher that. Charles?
Yeah, Ozzy Shell. It's what they have to cover the landfill with each day. And this is a machine to spread that material. We sent out 6 invitations, we got back 1, which was LCS Environmental Products. It's kind of a highly specialized piece of machinery, so there's not a lot of vendors for it. And they were the sole respondent on it.
This is a
And
new,
the amount of,
this is new though,
Yeah.
right? This is a new application. Wanda, are you on the line? I was just gonna let her remind us. It's, I think, a more environmental way to do it. Is that correct, Charles?
as far as I know, I'm not up on it completely, but the bid response was in an amount of $71,090.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Charles. Resolution 2271, declare surplus of municipal vehicles no longer needed by the police department for the drug seizure fund. Yes, ma'am. Becky, how are you?
I'm doing well. Do you want me to cover both of these at the same time?
Go ahead. I don't think Lieutenant's here, is he?
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is for the police department, and the first group of vehicles is seized vehicles that the police department acquired, and when these are sold, the proceeds would go back to the drug fund. And the second resolution, 2272, is for this group of vehicles were bought by the police department, and they will be sold, and the funds will go back into the general fund.
Any questions by council?
Becky, the ones that we previously purchased, were most of them patrol vehicles?
The larger group that we are, Resolution 272, was purchased by city funds for the police department.
Yes, they're mostly patrol vehicles, that's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Chief.
Any other questions?
You're welcome.
I was looking for a representative, oh, Chief Putnam. Chief, on this one right here, the Ford F-150, could that help pulling the apparatus if it's in good shape? And you would need to check with the police department. If we did not surplus this one, could that be one that we stayed at Station 4 with ready hooked up the apparatus? Would that pull that?
I'm sorry, which one do you
The Ford F-150, I don't know its condition, but would that pull the apparatus at 4 that we needed a vehicle for?
It would, I don't know what Chief, how new is the one that you got surplus?
I think everything that we surplused is in pretty bad shape and pretty old.
With the purchase of the new staff vehicles, we should be okay.
Okay, I saw that and I was gonna make reference to it.
Newer than what the F-150 that we're going to do.
Okay, I knew that one could be there all the time, maybe.
Well, I guess.
Well, Chief, I had to call Becky today. I was gonna make fun of the police department if they had a Dodge Neon as one of their patrol cars, but I didn't know if it was a seized version or not.
But it was seized, yes.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
That is also Resolution 2272. Any questions with those? Resolution 2273, authorize mayor to execute River Tree Systems Incorporated audit agreement. Sal?
Ma'am, this is just an addition to the contract that was signed by the mayor on March 16, 2020. Normally, we do a 3-year contract, and that's what we did back in March, but this is some clarification. Also, they now want to charge a 4-hour minimum on no finding audits. When they don't find anything, they need to charge a 4-hour minimum. So I think that's the change on the contract. And I give everybody a copy of what they've collected and what we paid them also, up to date.
So it looks like what we're paying them amounts to somewhere in the ballpark of 25% of the
Yes, sir,
gross.
approximately, that's correct.
And we've been dealing with them just 6 months, or we've been
Oh,
dealing
no,
with
no,
them for
sir,
years before
we
that?
renewed the contract. This is the renewed contract in March, so we had like a 3-year contract. I think we're going year to year, and I think this last year we did a 3-year.
The people we've done this business with previously, was 25% about the same
It's
ratio?
in the same ballpark, anywhere from like 25 to 33%.
Okay.
It still benefits us for sure.
And the 4-hour minimum that we're talking about, we had no minimum set in the guidelines. I don't remember.
I
one,
think
but-
before, let's say, for instance, we hand something over to them and they may say, well, we didn't find anything and there was no charge before. You know, I mean, most places have a minimum charge. I mean,
Okay.
Are we the ones choosing who they go and look at?
yes, sir. What they do is they submit a list every a month, and I'll approve those audits, or if I have somebody that I want audited, I'll turn that over to them.
So Sal, in the contract, it does say the 4-hour minimum. It doesn't give us a price
I was about
on
to say, what's
what
the
their
rate on
minimum
that?
is.
They charge, I don't have the initial contract with me, but
I do, and I don't see a charge rate.
I don't think you have to do it now, but I'd like to know what that rate is before we move forward with it. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's not in
Yeah.
this contract.
yeah, it's not in this one. I think it's in the previous one, I think from the one we did in March. I didn't bring that with me. I brought this one.
Can we have it next Monday?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I will. Yeah, I'll email.
That'd be great. Thank you, Sal. Any other questions? Christie?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Sal. All right, Resolution 2274, Room Occupancy Fund Expenditures, Assurances. Questions there? Resolution 2275, let's see, Matheny Goldman proposal for Carrie Matthews Building. Carl, are you on the line?
I am. Yeah, this resolution would allow me to, I guess, start working with the architect firm for the Carrie Matthew renovations. And I guess establish that the total project cost wouldn't exceed $1.8 million.
Carl, I know we've talked about this at length during work sessions. Will you go ahead and just recap what actually this will be done to the building?
Yeah, I guess everybody knows that the floors in that building have settled, some more than others. What I'm recommending would be looking at doing is basically leaving all the structural walls in place, but gutting the rest of the inside and the floors. Hopefully redoing the soles underneath and rebuilding the inside back.
What's the time frame you looking at,
Basically
Carl?
gut the building and rebuild the inside.
What's the time frame you looking at, Carl?
Sir?
What time frame are you looking at on that?
Probably looking at, I mean, just guessing, 3 to 6 months for the architect to come up with plans, and from there we could go to bid. Again, we will need to sit down with DYS or Parks and Recs and figure out use for the building, room sizes, everything like that, and then give them time to put together a plan and some architectural drawings so we can go out to bid with it.
Okay. So we're looking at roughly 4 months before we get the architectural drawings and things of that nature.
Yes.
From the time from that point, what are we looking at? Any idea? Construction?
I really don't know. Building construction's a little bit outside of my area of expertise, but obviously once we get those plans and me meeting with the architect, they can give me some idea of what the construction time frame would be. But again, that being a little bit outside of my normal construction area, I don't have a good feel for that.
Okay. I have to push a little bit more, but we would be safe in saying that we're looking at a year closure?
Probably, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Carl. Resolution 2276, approve Morgan County Emergency Management Communication District 911 contract.
Yes, this is, we do this contract every year. This is verbatim with last year's contract, except for the cost, and I think it went up $1,472 a month on that. And probably the chiefs could get more. I didn't go into the whys, I just got that was what they had talked about.
Any questions?
The increase is because they are now picking up our MDT licensing fees.
And what's that fee again?
The MDT, the mobile data terminals licensing fees, it was easier for us to combine all of that under one roof. We moved it from IT.
Okay, and what's that new dollar amount?
$1,472 and some change increase per month.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief, I was going to ask that, go to E in the contract if you have it in front of you, and it says technology and licensing. Since they provide this for us, could that impede, let's say, it just could happen. I mean, if we go to a different 911 system, if we bring it back to in-house, could they then take that away from us? Is that, I think that's what it calls. Could they hold that licensing fee? Would we have to possibly pay that again? If you look.
No, it's still, the licensees are still assigned to us, they just picking up the payment on it. No, we would still have it.
Okay.
Each licensing is assigned to each entity.
The intent of that is that we keep ownership of it, so that if it's something that we've paid for, which we're in this, we're doing that, that it's ours. So it
Okay,
would go with.
but I thought the day she came and addressed, she said it would be theirs, but they would pay for it.
No.
Just so that's
I don't remember
clear.
her saying that, but that,
Okay.
I'm not,
And IT is managing it so that if there's any overlap in licensing, that we don't pay twice. So
Right.
we're bumping it against our existing licenses.
Right, well, that's what we talked about in that meeting. She wasn't very clear on how that would work. I just wanted to make sure we didn't double pay, and if something happened, we would still retain ownership of what we were doing.
and she's planning on being here Monday.
So I think the rates too, when Chip talks about $1,400 a month, I think you're looking at it with the IT, and the IT is really separate, I think.
Right, I'm talking about the total dollar figure we're having to
When
pay.
you back out the IT, I think it's around $395, which is pretty close to what we paid.
Okay, thank you. We could just clarify that before the vote. Christie, do you have anything?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Any other council member? I know we have someone here from the public, Mr. McClellan from the Daily would like to speak on this resolution. Bruce, if you'll come to the microphone, just state your name and address, please, for the record. Thank you.
Bruce McClellan, 3113 Battlement Road Southwest. I'm coming representing myself as an individual and also to represent the Decatur Daily, where I'm editor. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you, Christy, Charles, Paige, Billy, Chuck. What I would like to advocate is that you delete Section 3 of the contract, release of records, because we feel that release of records is covered by state law that was passed in 2010, and at best by making it difficult for the public to obtain the records, it reduces transparency in the city, and at worst, we feel this conflicts with state law. And I've given you the state law so you have a chance to look at it between now and Monday, but the state law doesn't say that the records are open, except it says that a written transcript shall be made available. And to give a little background on the state law, in 2010, the legislature carefully considered this matter and came up with a balance. They decided we're not going to let the public have access to the oral communication in the 911 call, but we will give the public access to the written transcript. And a good example of where this makes it tough for the public to access records was the May 25th triple homicide in the police jurisdiction, because there you had both Morgan County Sheriff's Department, Decatur Police, and other agencies respond. You could have a case where every agency has a different agreement with the 911 board, and any member of the public wanting a transcript of that call would have to comply with each agency's different contract. So we would like you to just go with what the state law is on release of public records, transcripts of 911 calls.
How does that affect the other entities? As you said, there were 3 entities. If we approve this, how does that affect?
Well, right now, they don't have a separate agreement with 911. Basically, Decatur's agreement says that the police department gets 3 days to review a request for records and then can turn it down. The other agencies just go with the state law, which is if we call and request or make a written request for a transcript of a 911 call, we have to pay the transcription fee, but it is released, and there's no question about it being a public record.
Council, if you'll note, I did make copies of the law, and so did Bruce. Christie, I'm sorry, I'll give you one. If you go to provision D, it's very clear. It does say upon payment of a reasonable fee not to exceed the actual cost of transcription, an emergency communications district shall provide a transcript of any requested audio recording of 911 telephone calls which is retained by the emergency communications district. Absolutely, it's D here. I agree with you that I'm not sure that we need the actual voice recording, but if they give you a transcript, I'm not quite sure how we need to look at it in this contract, gentlemen, but
Well,
that is state law, it's pretty evidence, right?
Well, it is, but in all public records requests, there are exceptions. We don't just hand over our full investigative reports. We don't do other things like that. And it's the same situation here. We do get a chance to look at it, and the contract says that the only way it would be, they would not get the information they're seeking is if the fire chief or the police chief deem it to be a matter of public safety for it to be released. And that makes logical sense. There are things in investigations, things that are subject to a criminal investigation are withheld all the time until the investigation is complete, and that's what this covers.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, one second, Bruce.
That is what this is.
I don't have a problem with if it's in an investigation. My problem is a gag order or not, then after the investigation is closed. And Chief and I had a very long conversation this afternoon about it. At that point, it needs to be released to the public because it's public knowledge. These funds are from public funds paying for 911 for
And when the investigation is over, we typically don't have a problem with that, but it doesn't need to be released and mess up the investigation and the
That's not what you're
trial.
asking, is it, Bruce? You're asking to mess up an investigation.
We're asking that you follow the state law that says if you pay the cost of the transcription fee, the transcript of the 911 call would be released. The state lawmakers didn't have a provision that says if it's under investigation, the transcript won't be released. They say if you pay the fee, it will be released.
No, but it says in relation to all public records requests, an exception to those being released is if they're subject to investigation, they're undergoing criminal investigation. It covers the whole thing.
And I would respectfully disagree with you on that.
And we've had that argument probably 100 times since I've been upstairs, so. I mean, our interests are different, and my interest is, and I think the Chief Allen would agree, our interest is protecting the sanctity of the investigation and sanctity of the criminal case and not releasing the information to the public.
Bruce, if I could ask, please, you made reference to other agencies, and I want to be clear, were you telling us how this is handled in other areas, say Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery?
No, I was just saying in Morgan County, those are the only ones I'm familiar with. Like Morgan County Sheriff's Department doesn't have a similar agreement with 911 where they get to review a request for the record. 911 turns it over following the state law.
Chip, could you ask some of the Huntsville and other areas how they do it?
I do think that's pertinent for us to make a decision.
I can ask them about it.
I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah,
To me,
Bruce,
I think
I don't
it
mind
makes
giving you a
perfect
copy of
sense.
this. At the end of A, it does say, this section shall not apply to a law enforcement personnel conducting an investigation where the 911 telephone call is, may or be relevant to the investigation. So I would say that is during the investigation, they can't give a transcript, but once that is finished, then they can. Now, I'll say, I have seen in the last 4 years where either Bain or other media have asked for public records to be released, and there's been a delay. There's been a huge delay that I think is a problem and has to stop. If y'all or anyone else from the public request public records, it needs to be done as soon as it can be done. That's part of the law. It's part of paying tax dollars. So that, I'm with you, that needs to be addressed. But I think, and I don't mind giving you a copy of mine if you'd like it, but it does say at A, the investigation.
Okay, well, thank you for considering my request.
Any other questions from council on the 911 contract?
Not at the time, but thank you, Bruce, for coming and speaking on that behalf.
Thank you, Bruce. Resolution 2277, MOU between City of Decatur and Decatur City Schools for School Resource Officer SRO Program. Chief, or Chip?
Yeah, that's just the standard contract we worked out with them a few years ago, and it's just changing the dates.
Anything changed other than the dates?
Nope.
Are those costs 50/50?
It's a strange thing. The people, when they're there, they get paid, and if they're overtime is.
So it's structured to a formula?
It's a formula.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
are you okay with this contract?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. Anything from council? Christie?
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right, ordinance number 204425, declare surplus and sale of 208 Church Street Northwest. Alan.
Yes, this is a request just to sell this property at 208 Church Street Northwest, and we request your approval to do that.
Can you tell us about 204 while you're?
Yes, 204, we did sell a permit for the demolition of that, so it's under, we have sold a contract. or
We
sold a
didn't actually
permit.
condemn it, did we?
Yes,
Yeah, we
yeah, it
did.
was
Okay,
condemned.
all right. My
And we
understanding
have-
was that we had
yeah,
not.
And we sold a permit, or we approved, and the building department sold a permit for the demolition of 204.
Okay, all right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Christie?
Ma'am.
Thank you, Alan. Ordinance number 204424, authorize the insurance of a $5 million revolving line of credit for MUB. Go right ahead, thank you.
This is just the renewal of the $5 million line of credit for Decatur Utilities. It's a tax-free variable rate equivalent to Wall Street Journal's prime minus 1%.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
All righty, and then boards and committees. Board appointment industrial, the IDB board to Stacy Gillum. Board appointment industrial development board to Cedric Evans. IDB board to Julia Roth. IDB board to Zachary Starnes. And then IDB board appointment to, help me out, Stacy, Kieran, yes, it's the last one.
Question, do we have 5 board positions open?
Well, yes, and some are serving as the president council. You have the option. Either marshals or some of these.
Did you hear?
So we do have 5 potential for reappointment.
We do. We have 2, or 1 that is serving at the pleasure of the council. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be the 5th. Any other questions? Anything from council?
No, ma'am.
John, do you have something, did we want to look at the bond thing, or? We're okay? All right. Anything from directors? Anybody on the phone, directors? Herman, do you have something?
I don't have it now, just get started.
Okay, and then Mayor.
Yes, just one question. On the industrial development board changes that have been made, Ashley Ashwander, I saw that she's in her first term. Was she aware of this?
She still has to be reappointed from council.
I mean, is there, she's been a faithful member and served the board well is what I'm asking.
Right, and Paige and I had just talked with Ashley, probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, because she's been serving at the pleasure of the council, and she said she'd be happy to serve, or she would be happy not to. She was just willing to serve if she was needed. So thank you for inquiring about that, though.
Thank you.
Isn't she serving on another position?
I don't know. Stacy, could you?
And it may not be a city board, she may be serving.
Could you
I would
verify?
have to verify that.
Yeah, we need to be fair to all those serving.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. You have a good evening.